Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is SamElit64 and welcome to the second part of the BattleBots 2019 Ultimate Preview podcast. We are splitting this episode into two because the total podcast was 3.5 hours long and we figured that's an awful long time for someone to sit down and listen to a podcast, so we're splitting it directly in half with robots with the names beginning A to L in the first part and robots beginning M2Y, in the second part. We think this should be, a bit easier for people to digest. Instead of having a 3.5 hour podcast to listen to, you've got two 1 hour and 3/4 ones. Hope you've been enjoying it so far, and off we go with part 2. Enjoy. So moving on then, and next entry is a team that, I've never really heard of Team Foo Fight, I'll be honest with you, but they are California based, and Mad Catter. What a cracking machine this is! It just looks so wonderful. I mean,
I like the cute little face.
Kitty face. I mean, this is the closest thing I think we've got to complete control this season, and I'm not opposed to it because it just looks fantastic. There's just so much going on. There's so much going on.
It looks really, really cool.
Yeah, I mean, it has all this. It has the lifter grabber. The axe as well on top, the hammer. Big plow at the front by the looks of things as well. It looks like it's going to take a hit or two, and I'm intrigued to see how they get on. But again, I've never really heard of the team before, but it's exciting to see something new come to the table.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those. It's definitely one of those robots where I can see it maybe taking control. Not complete control, but we're close. But it's got an axe. I've seen it actually in the test box. Through a video that's been shared. That axe is it's speed controlled, so it can come down really, really quick, or it can come down nice and slow like a clamp.
Okay.
So they can use it like an axe, or use it like a gripper.
So they've got like a bit of clutch control in there as well. So it's not going to necessarily
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I find it interesting that particularly in the US, there's a lot of electric hammers rather than pneumatic hammers. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
That's the way that things are going. I know a couple of teams coming up. We'll talk about them when we get to them. Utilize electric power hammers rather than pneumatic ones. Anderson, anything more to add to Mad Catter?
I just really hope it manages to go through to the top 16. It would be great to see a fun machine like this go far. So good luck to the team, but who knows?
Yeah, it looks really fun, and it's clearly full of personality. It's vibrant colours. You're gonna see it pop in the arena.
Well, speaking of the colors, it can camouflage at least half of its robot in the red or blue square. So
no matter what side it's on, no matter what side it's on, you're only going to see half of it. So it's great. This is what we want to see in BattleBots, obviously. Yeah, absolutely. And good luck to the team. It looks like a really fun robot. I can't wait to see how Mad Catter gets on. Now, Steve, I think we obviously mentioned earlier when we talked about Foxtrot. We mentioned this other robot as well, which is another Florida-based team.
No, I think they're Maryland. Are they Florida or Maryland?
Oh, they're Maryland. I tell a lie.
Yeah.
They're Maryland.
I saw them in Florida.
Yeah,
they're everywhere.
They were at Orlando Makers Fair last year, and it was Mammoth, which is by far and away the biggest combat robot I think I've ever seen. I think you could probably fit a 2-headed Death Flamingo in there somewhere as well. This thing's enormous. I mean, it's all frame, mind you. I'm not expecting any competitive seriousness out of this thing, but I mean, it's not competitively serious. I mean, look at this; it's goddamn ridiculous. Look at the size of it.
It is a little silly. I mean, well, let's put it this way: it has no panels to damage. We'll put it that way.
Yeah.
And we've seen promo footage. It's got flamethrowers on the edge of the spinner.
Yes.
Are you out of your mind?
I mean, it's not a spinner per se. It's more of it's a spinning lifter. So it's going to get other things and tip things over.
It's not something that's going to build up kinetic energy. It's just something that's supposed to toss things over.
Yeah.
It is so tall. Seeing this thing in person, and the arena owned by Maker Effects down here in Florida, this thing. Everybody clapped when it was able to actually fit into the arena and spin the bar because of how it's so unusually tall. You don't expect anybody to enter anything like this.
I imagine a robot like Mammoth is when you try to get a new sofa or something and you try and squidge it through your door frame. It doesn't quite fit. You have to tip it that way, try and get it in. Is that trying to get Mammoth in a box? Do you reckon?
Pivot.
There you go. Pivot.
Obviously, as we mentioned already, we saw their fight with Foxtrot,
Yeah.
And how Foxtrot got lost underneath. I want to see, we mentioned already that we want to see Deep Six and Huge fight each other. I want to see this fighting Deep Six and Huge as well, just like the big boys all together.
Yeah.
That'll be a classic fight. Anderson.
I can see Deep Six just
I will be honest.
around.
I'm quite surprised they managed to fit. I'll be honest. I'm quite surprised I managed to fit this thing in Maryland. To be fair, but it's quite a small state.
Oh, obviously, Anderson,
only Americans would get that joke, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's true.
I'll be honest. I'm not a big fan myself. I don't see the appeal. Yeah, okay, it's big.
It sure is.
To look at.
It sure
Everything
is.
in America bigger is better, man.
Exactly. It's just. It's not even nice to look at, in my opinion. That's not me being a dick. It's just not for me.
It's not your
But
cup
Fair
of
Play
tea.
did the same. They've done. Yeah, it's not my cup of tea because I'm British, Yeah, obviously, Fair Play to them. They've gone completely against the norm with this thing, and
It's very
power
outside.
to them for that. I guess they managed.
It's very outside the
The fact
box.
they managed to make something so big fit in the weight limit is pretty good. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's completely outside the box, and I applaud them for doing something completely different to. But
How the hell are they going to fit this thing in either the red or blue square? How are they going to fit it in there?
I mean, the red's half of the arena, something like that. I don't
It's
know.
out of the box, but they have to still fit it in the box.
Yeah, this is very true. This is very true. But it's gonna be a spectacle, that's for sure. I think we can all agree that much.
It's an exciting experiment in what you can do with
combat robots. In general.
with combat robots, and it doesn't have to be this most high-tech, most crazy-looking thing. You know what I mean? But to make something that's memorable, it doesn't have to have all the electronics and all this milled aluminum. It could just be a frame and be like, they're there.
Yep, it sure can. Speaking of milled aluminium, we should say.
I'm good at these
These
segues.
segues write themselves.
They do.
I am so good.
Obviously, we know the beautiful robots of Team Black and Blue. We know from previous seasons. We know Ringmaster and obviously Duck last season. Duck again this season, and another new robot. This time it's Marvin, which is Hannah's. I believe it's Hannah Rucker. I want to say. Correct me if I'm wrong. Howell's daughter.
Yeah.
That's the one.
Marvin.
It looks to me like it's a spinner on a chassis, obviously, but like it's one way it's an angled spinner and the other way it's an undercutter. I think is how it works,
Interesting.
which I'm intrigued by. There's actually another robot like this, which we're going to talk about a bit later on. But Marvin looks like a really fun robot. It's a bit of a different take on the spinner meta. It's a horizontal angled weapon, so it's going to be really low to the ground. It's going to hit nice and low, and then it's obviously going to be even lower when it's an undercutter. But if it's inverted, let's say Marvin, it's a damn nice looking thing. Let's face it, it looks real nice. But what do you guys think of Marvin?
I don't know. I'm excited that Hannah gets her own robot again. Because
Yes.
technically the Ringmaster was something that was all her. So now it's cool to see another input from Team Black and Blue. It's gonna be cool to see a robot that, because I think we think of Hal's robots now. We think Whoops and Duck.
Yep.
The most dominant, and then I was so underwhelmed by Ringmaster, and I think it had a lot of promise, and I liked the design. And I think the photos before it came out, and I'm like, man, this thing is so cool, and then it just didn't perform.
I think
So I'm
Ringmaster
excited.
suffered from rushed build schedule and
Maybe.
lack of testing. Like obviously its first fight was in the battle box rather than say Duck, which had and yes it was it was its own robot, but Whoops was a tried and tested design.
Yeah.
And I think Duck borrowed from that quite well. Marvin again it's a first time we're going to see something like this, but I think given that Duck was such a huge success, it didn't need much improving, and wouldn't have needed much more. Obviously it's been rebuilt from the ground up, but it's an evolution on the design, whereas this is something entirely new. I'm intrigued to see how it gets on though. It's something different, that's for sure.
Definitely.
Anderson, Marvin.
You guys basically covered all of it there. In all fairness.
I expect to see some kind of Marvin the Martian plushie somewhere around there. That'd be
Please, that'd be cool. That'd be very cool.
Better be.
Yeah, absolutely.
I will be
So
so
easy.
angry.
There was supposed to be an earth-shattering kaboom.
Where is my kaboom?
We're gonna have a Farouk intro that's got us do something.
I hope so. Farouk, I'm so glad Farouk's back as well. Let's just put that out there
of
as
course.
well.
What would BattleBots be without the guy?
Anyway, we'll move on from Marvin to last year's runners-up, the Brazilian bull that is Minotaur. Slightly changed from last season. It's very similar, obviously, because why would they radically change the design that took them to second in the championship. All new drum. The chassis is a slightly different shape. It's a bit more, it looks a bit leaner, if anything. Like the chassis, it looks like there's more weight at the front to try and when it does give out those massive hits that we know Minotaur's capable of. It's kind of like it's all planted into the ground rather than, spreading along its a slightly thicker chassis. Maybe they've got different iterations for different opponents. I don't know, but it looks a bit leaner, I think. I mean, it's basically the Minotaur we know and love, but obviously, those guys, Rearbots, they've done this for so many years. They know exactly what they're doing, and I mean, they're going to be right up there again, surely.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely a robot.
I love the new drum.
Oh yeah,
it's new drum. The new drum looks so tasty.
It does.
And I think the idea of the slight change of design of the chassis is to, because obviously remember last season they got stuck on their side, if I remember correctly, and they couldn't quite get off the side. And I think this is meant to sort of help aid with that, maybe. Who knows?
It's
yeah.
I mean, it's interesting that they've changed it like the way that they have, but like as we said last season, they took such a beating, and I think they just kind of wanted to have something maybe to defend against Vert. I don't know, but like they lost 2 fights last year. They lost to Bite Force and Tombstone. I mean, there's no disrespect there, is there? Let's face it.
No, and one of them they were completely split in half. So I mean, and they came back and got second. So I give them a lot of credit. I also definitely would thank Tormach for keeping them alive.
Oh yes, absolutely.
without that tooling there, I don't know if they would have made it that far. Everybody love your sponsors. But it's a tried and tested design. I mean, they've won everywhere except BattleBots, it seems. I mean, is
it me or is it... Oh, sorry, go on.
No, go ahead. That's really always go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I was just going to ask, is it me or is the ground clearance slightly higher this season?
I don't think it really matters for Minotaur because, I mean, I don't know if you two have seen the footage they released recently of them in the test arena, where it looks so much nippier than it used to. Like the drive looks faster and everything. The spin up seems faster and scarier. I mean, obviously we know Minotaur's a dangerous machine anyway, but like they've really cranked it up to 11, and they are gunning for this title.
I mean, they want it so bad. They were building it up so much last year, and I really thought they were going to get it. But Bite Force is just an unbreakable force. Yeah. There's no other way to put that around that. Daniel Freitas is a great driver. We know this. I just think it might finally eclipse, because it was, what was it, top 4 in 2016
and top 2
and then 2018 top. Yeah. Oh man, it's just. I just hope the Gremlins don't get to it. You know what I mean? Because I just worry about stuff like that. But
I mean, both times
it's a tried and tested design. Yeah.
Both times they've had, they were, I think they were fairly unfortunate to lose to Bombshell, and I think they were winning the fight against Bombshell until they got stuck.
Yes.
And obviously, when Bite Force, Bite Force decimated them really, but it was an even fight up until like that one side panel came off, and then. Yeah. And then all hell broke loose for them. But
actually, just rewatched that final recently. It's both of their weapons felt. Well, the thing is, I think the story goes that Paul turned his weapon down because it was slipping, and then he turned it back up when he maybe when he saw that Minotaur was on the ropes and he had his chance, and lights out for Minotaur. But maybe that won't happen this time. Maybe they'll have a better run. It's entirely up to who they get drawn against. I know they're going to get a hard draw because it's Minotaur. So. We shall see.
We shall see. Anderson, anything more to add to Minotaur?
No, we've said it all. Okay. Good luck getting this time, lads. Hopefully they can take it home this time.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Now we'll move on to another non-American competitor, and someone that we are very fond of on this podcast. We've had him on many times, and we've obviously we're talking about the big Brit Vert from last season. It is Monsoon.
Or Drizzle Heavy.
Well, Drizzle Heavy, yeah, absolutely. Monsoon is...
Heavy rain, yeah.
Press X to Jason, anyone. Monsoon, obviously, this is an all-new Monsoon as well. It's completely, built from the ground up, all new. Slightly reprofiled side panel to kind of like deflect spinners, I think, a bit better. And obviously they've had the technical expertise of one Rory Mangles, which is obviously a big asset to any team, really. I mean, he's helped us out so much with the Flamingo over the last few years. It's crazy. bit of a wizard when it comes to these things. But Monsoon, I think their biggest issue is going to be last season's performance, and I say this because obviously last season they finished top 8, and I think as a result, like, they didn't have an easy draw last time. I think they had Red Devil, Son of Whyachi, Axe Backwards, and who was the other one? Petunia. Yeah, so they had a tough run of things. But with that,
they were an unknown last year.
Exactly. Well, yeah, a relative unknown. Like this is.
Yeah. Touron wasn't successful in Robot War.
Yeah.
Let's just leave that.
Yeah. Exactly.
Sorry, Tom, but it's just true.
I mean, he's Tom, bless him. I think he knows that full well. But like with Monsoon this season, they're going to have a target on their back, and I think they're going to be given a tough run of things. That they might end up with, say, a Tombstone or a Bite Force or a Minotaur early on. Can they replicate the form of last season? I mean, they could. It's certainly a capable machine.
It's definitely a capable machine. It's just the field is so much bigger this year.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to say.
And so much stronger this year. They're going to have a lot more tougher competition this year. The problem is, it's not so much a case of asking, are they capable? It's more of a question of asking, how capable is everyone else?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I'd love to say, and I do want them to do well, because we know Tom's a good lad. England is the best country in the world. Sorry, Steve. And Monsoon is a really, really good machine, and it proved it last time around. And I think if they've managed to, especially if they managed to get the reliability of the weapon working in their favour this time around, they do have a strong chance of getting to that top 16 bracket again. But there's just so many different teams this time around. There's different designs, there's different attacks, there's different tactics involved with each robot as well. And they're just such good machines this time around that it is literally a case of anyone could be considered good for that top 16 bracket this time around.
Yep. Yeah, I agree.
It's an interesting case with Monsoon where I do really want it to do well. I have an ant weight that I kind of stole the idea of the hinging weapon off of. So I have a fondness for this design already. I do worry the same. I have the same worries as you guys, where I think it's going to have a stacked card this time. Not that it had an easy time last time, but it's gonna get. It's got more eyes on it now because we've already seen what it can do. Like one of my favorite hits from last season was it decimating Red Devil in that first hit and just flipping it completely over pods and everything. That's still one of my favorite hits.
Yeah, it was good. I think this fight with SawBlaze as well was phenomenal. The back and forth was excellent. I think Monsoon's got a real. It's got a great chance. It's just whether they have such a difficult draw where they end up going out really early because they're in with the real big boys and they just can't handle it. We'll have to wait and see.
Got as good as chances as anyone. Just drive well and
hope for the best.
Say a couple prayers.
And hope for the best. So I suppose you could say we had a bit of a nightmare. Basically, we've recorded the whole thing, the whole 3.5 hours of podcast and the rest, because it's probably just a bit over 3.5 hours. What we didn't know was about Nightmare.
About that.
So obviously we mentioned in the first part that there was 67, 68 robots. No, it was 69. Bot 69 is Nightmare.
Come on, man. I thought the Comedy Central jokes were over.
I know. After all that, BattleBots had to pull out that joke. I mean, it's Nightmare. It's sure. I mean, after we said with BreakerBox as well, there was no Nightmare competing. Yeah. Apparently there is.
I honestly thought they were letting good robots in this season, but obviously not.
I'll be honest. I'm glad to see it back. I'm glad to see it back.
I'll admit it's a legend. BattleBots is empty without Nightmare. It's the same as, for example, if Robot Wars came back, and Chaos 2, even though it's completely outdated, was to come back. I mean, it'd be completely pointless, and we know that it wouldn't do very well. But hey, it's a legend. Welcome back, sort of thing. I'm not a fan of Nightmare, but it wouldn't be BattleBots without it, would it?
No, and I mean, last season certainly felt a bit empty without Nightmare. I think that's fair to say.
It did. I mean, that's the reason why it's not the best BattleBots season yet. It's just because Nightmare wasn't there.
Yeah.
I hope it gets a couple of fights, if nothing else. You know what I mean? I hope it gets a couple.
Yeah.
Just one exhibition fight, which it's going to inevitably lose because it's Nightmare, and that's what it does. And then we can just forget about it again for another year. And there we go.
I mean, he sunk off his mic. That's brilliant. Nightmare, for what it is, it's as we've already said, it's not the most competitive of machines. But it's going to be a spectacle. Whatever it does, if it fights, 4 fights, I'll be very surprised. But I'm excited to see how it gets on.
I expect to see it in a bunch of exhibitions, if nothing else.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
Definitely.
I'd like to see them fight their own machine in Breaker Box, just to show the comparison.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, it's Nightmare as we know and love it. It's it's a massive vertical spinner. Pretty much unchanged from season 2, but there's nothing wrong with that. So, and now back to your regular scheduled programming to the past.
Da-da-da.
We'll move on from Monsoon then, and we'll move on to another Brit team. A Brit team who, I mean, it's a world apart from Monsoon. It's very like a lot of antithesis as such, but it's very different. It is Nelly the Ellybot.
It looks like a face that never forgets.
It's staring you down, and it will. I mean, as you quite rightly say, elephants never forget, and I mean, I don't think anyone's ever going to forget Nelly. I mean, the amount of build up to this machine we saw with the bonks and the when Nelly, etc.
And the
memes and everything else. I mean, fair play.
And everyone not shutting up about it. Jesus.
Wow.
Obviously not in a bad way, but like it did. I mean, I'm sure for a lot of people it was kind of like, when are we going to see this thing? Here it is, and I'm suitably impressed considering I know the team had some difficulty getting it together in time. Because BattleBots,
they definitely were struggling, weren't they?
Yeah, I know there was a crowdfunding page at some point for this team, but anyway, that's beside the point. They struggled to get it together in time. They did get it together in time. Here it is, and because you look at it, you think actually that's not half badly put together. It's a machine with a big wedge and it's a big overhead hammer. It looks nice.
Mm-hmm. And this was supposed to compete in Robot Wars, but didn't do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Steve, what did you say? Sorry.
Oh yeah, this was a robot that was actually supposed to show up on Robot Wars, but never did.
They applied. I don't think they got accepted. I think that was the issue behind it. Obviously,
they
go on.
What was it? Series 9 and 10 they attempted to qualify for?
Yeah. And if the wikis to be believed, it was selected for Series 9, but withdrew. Yeah. So this will be its first TV outing, which is exciting.
It is exciting. Obviously, the featherweight did fairly well in Insomnia last time, so who knows? Maybe the heavy will do as well.
Gotta wait for a good hit.
Yeah, I mean, well, they are, as obviously Sarah Mallion, the captain of the team, is obviously the main lady over at Shunt Posting. So
yeah,
and
I had to throw that in there.
Yeah, the good hit will have to come. I mean, there's no John Reed here this time, so they will be the kings of waiting for a good hit. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see.
I love the amount of Axebots we have this time.
There's a lot, and there's a lot from the UK as well, which is really weird. Like,
yeah.
I think of the 7 BritBots that are over there, I think 3 or 4 of them are hammers, which is crazy.
Pretty cool. I like the variety we're seeing this year. I mean, we saw a lot of verts last year. I mean, it's not like there aren't some now, but I mean, it's cool.
Yeah, it's nice that there's a bit of variation in the field this time around. Yeah. Anderson, anything more to add to Nelly?
No, not really. I think we've covered it all.
What else is there to say? The picture tells it all.
Yeah.
Yeah, the picture says it all.
Yeah, it does.
It's a big purple thing with a smile and a wacky thing.
Yeah.
There you go.
Big old, waving your trunk around sort of thing. But we'll have to see how Nelly gets on this time around, and we'll move on to a team. Last season, I think we all kind of agreed we wanted to see more of the team and the robot. We never really got to see. We never got to see it at all on the main TV show. And not even on the side channel. I don't think.
We got on YouTube.
Yeah, we've got it on YouTube.
BattleBots Basement.
Yep, absolutely. The as Steve rightly put it, the BattleBots Basement team that is it was Parallax. It's now P1, and this thing, oh my goodness me, what a giant leap forward that is. I just hope it works.
Let's just hope it works.
Yes.
Let's just really hope it works. Please work. I want this thing to work. It looks absolutely stunning, lads.
Well, Anderson, you
And
called it
it's a front
GBH2.
GBH3. GBH3.
It's GBH3.
Well,
Yeah. I mean,
GBH 3000. It looks beautiful, and it's got a front hinge flipper, and we know that I've got a soft spot for front hinge flippers.
yeah.
Oh, it looks so good.
My only disappointment is that the headlights are stickers and not lights. That is the only thing that ruins the whole thing for me. I know, but that's one of my only disappointments with it. The rest of it, I mean, it just looks beautiful. It's got this really nice chrome and orange flash of paint through the middle. It looks the part. It's got a big spoiler on the back as well. It has everything. This thing has everything.
It would be nice and cheeky if they could flash their headlights.
Yeah.
It's got some problems, guys. It's got one big major problem. No go faster stripes. It's got no go faster.
It's got to go faster stripe.
It's
got to go faster stripe singular.
Yeah, well, that's not good enough. You need stripes. Otherwise, you're done for.
I really hope this does. Luke. I think Luke Bittenbinder, I think is how you say his name. He's a really nice guy. I met him a couple of times last year with Parallax, and it's such a beautiful robot. The Parallax is a nice looking machine. This is a really nice looking machine as well. I hope that we get to see more of P1. I certainly hope we get to see more of P1 than we did of Parallax.
I'm interested to see how fast it goes. And I'm also interested to see... Well, you got to think this is the first front hinge flipper we've seen since Push to Exit on television, right?
And when was the last one on BattleBots?
That's a really good question.
It was a long time ago.
Hinge flipper.
It's not very common over here.
It's really not. Flippers in general aren't that common. You've got Bronco and SubZero and a few more in this series, but that's about it.
Yeah, we stole one. We got Little Sister for a little bit.
The red square, maybe? Does that count as a front hinge flipper?
I know people, our comment warriors are totally working on this for us.
I'm sure, currently, we're being told, it's this, and this. How could you not know? But
there was one, actually. I do remember
technically Sewer Snake could be a front hinge flipper.
We'll say, for the sake of argument, we'll say Sewer Snake and Stinger.
Stinger, yeah.
But it's not it's not the same. This is a full-on front hinge flipper, and I love it. I think this thing looks fantastic, and I really hope we get to see quite a lot of it this season. I think this could be a decent candidate for a top 16 spot if it works.
Yeah, and how rugged that frame is, you know what I mean? Let's see how well those panels hold up.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks solid, but we'll have to wait and see how they get on for P1. Now, another one of our favourite guest from last year was Misha DeGraff. Lovely gentleman. I was, super happy.
Well, still here to talk to.
I'm sure, Misha, if you're out there, we would love to have you back. I really hope you do come back for another chat this season.
A few times, I gotta say.
Absolutely, you really did. And his robot Petunia last season was beautiful. And I mean, what can you say? It's beautiful again. It's a big old crusher. I mean, you don't see many crushers in Robot Combat these days. We have two in this season, which is very strange. But Petunia's a damn fine machine.
It's a spinner defeating wedge / grabber thingy. What more do you need?
Yeah, it's just so different.
It's effective. It's effective. It stands out these days in the field of mostly spinners, and I look forward to seeing it perform again because it was in some of my favorite battles last time around. So yeah,
I'd like to see that claw go through some things this time though.
I mean, it went through Shredderator just fine.
Yeah, that's true.
And I thought their fight with Rotator was right up there. It was fantastic. Yeah. I mean, the way that they just pulled it over the kill saws at the end, just ripping up its tire.
That was glorious.
Rotator had a really good season after that. So it just proves just how close the field was. And just Petunia had a rough time of things. I mean, I think they lost to Monsoon and Yeti. There's no disgrace there. But can they do it this time? Can they squeeze into that top 16? I think they've got a real shot. It's just, again, look at the draw, isn't it? Really.
Yeah, that seems like a common conclusion we're coming up with because it's there's so much unknown, and these are gonna be 2-hour episodes, so we're getting a lot of fights.
Oh yes.
So who the heck knows what's gonna happen?
We're gonna be guessing all the way up to June the 7th when the season actually starts itself. So we'll have to see how Petunia gets on. Speaking of crushers.
Yeah, it was the back to back.
Back to back. The two crushers are back to back. The other one is a British-based team called Team Robo Challenge, famous for building the house robots in Robot Wars and Spectre from King of Bots, and now bringing us Quantum for BattleBots. I mean, this is Spectre. It was a special robot because it had that massive CNC beautifully engineered claw head at the front. This is very similar, but like this much more. It looks a lot more organic, and I think they use a different technique for machining it, didn't they? I can't remember what I can't remember what it's called.
I watched that video about them doing like how they save weight and stuff. Like it's very, very curious.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, first of all, it's a beautiful robot. I think let's all agree there. It's just spectacular.
Yeah.
This is the ultimate.
It's Razor evolved.
Yeah, this is
like
Razor.
If Razor was a Pokemon and it evolved, this is Razor.
Yeah, if this is if Razor was conceived and like the design was conceived today, this is what it would be. Definitely. It's fast. It has the big crushing arm at the front. They obviously won King of Bots season 1. In the end, it's. I mean, what a great machine. I know, Anderson, I know you're not the biggest fan of Quantum, but like it's a spectacular machine, isn't it?
I know, I do like Quantum and Spectre because they're. People assume because I'm not a fan of Razor, that means I immediately dislike anything that's got a crusher on, and that's not at all the case. I actually found Spectre to be very, very entertaining when I eventually did watch King of Bots. I admit I was quite late to the party with that one.
Me too,
because it changed the field. I mean, the thing with Razor was, it was slow. I don't like slow matches.
This thing was fast. This thing is really good.
This thing is so quick. It's so agile, and it's so deadly. I've never seen something crush that quickly and be that effective. And it sets robots on fire and everything, and it's so sick. And I'm a pirate.
Some robots need a warm meal, man.
Exactly. I mean, people think I'm probably going to be an arsonist one day. I mean, oh my god.
I also like. I like how the two robots that they have.
Calm down a little bit there, man. It's a little bit too hot in here.
It is very sweaty. I do like how both of the two robots that they have, obviously Spectre and Quantum, they're named after James Bond films.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So does that mean the next one's going to be called Skyfall or something? Or I don't know. I don't know. Who knows? But
Goldfinger maybe. Doctor No.
Doctor. Oh gosh, it's gonna have eight crushes instead of just the one. How do we rate this? I mean, obviously we mentioned earlier we saw the fight with Blacksmith. It looks beautiful. Can't wait to see that fight. How high do we rate Quantum? Like, do we think they can make the finals? This is obviously this is interesting to see how well they do, because this won King of Bots.
Yes, considering the quality of bots over King of Bots.
Yes.
Yeah. The thing is, I mean, when you look at it, obviously Gigabyte came 4th over at King of Bots.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So of course that's in BattleBots as well. So that's also an idea of the different levels of competition.
Mm-hmm.
Got a thump over here, but then again, it was self-inflicted. A lot of that stuff banned.
Exactly. It was self-inflicted.
Yeah.
The thing is, I do rate Quantum's chances very hard. I mean, we know that the team can build ridiculously amazing machines.
Yep.
Yeah.
We know that they're brilliant when it comes to engineering, absolutely fantastic, and we know that they can fix their machine. But the thing is, while Spectre is a very good machine and can win, Quantum is a very good machine and can win, it's also a design that is also very prone to those big hits as well.
Well, obviously, those of you that haven't seen the fight between Spectre and 2 Barbecue over at King of Bots 2, and that was a great fight, by the way. I mean, 2 BBQ is one of the machines I really wish we could have seen in this season, actually, of BattleBots. But Spectre took a few hits there, and it gives you an idea that maybe Quantum isn't immortal. It is fallible.
Definitely, but at the same time, its chances are very high as well.
Yeah, sure.
It's too hard to tell.
Mm-hmm.
It's too difficult, damn it. I'm only a human, guys. Come on. It's too difficult.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they get on with Quantum this season. I think it's going to be fascinating for everyone to see how well they can cope with those big spinners. But we'll move on to another British team. Team Smushed Banana.
Another one.
another British hammer as well. I think this is the third one. I think, as we said earlier, it's Ragnarok, which is the combined efforts of the Vanquish team from last season, obviously Jack Tweedy, and Tim Rackers, of course, coming over from Monsoon and joining Jack on his crusade for the nut. This thing looks really nice again.
Let's hope it's better than Thor Ragnarok.
Oh,
I hate that film.
It was a good movie in my opinion, but let's not get into the MCU. I'm gonna make people mad.
Yeah. Let's not.
It was riding off the coattails of Guardians, man. That's all it was, man. They wrote all those jokes and like, man, we could pour these jokes into another movie, and it just didn't. Stop it! I'm gonna make people mad.
Back to Ragnarok, if we may. If we may, if we may, it's a beautiful looking thing. I love the aesthetic it's got going on with the big gold plow at the front. It looks mean. Another electric axe,
Yep.
Obviously showing that pneumatic axes aren't really, at the fore at the moment. And I'm sure that Jack's obviously learned his lessons from last season. And I believe he told us that the guy who welded Vanquish couldn't weld. Obviously, yeah. Well, apparently, or didn't know how to.
I'm surprised.
Hence, it's got split in half against Ice Wave. This is obviously a marked improvement, isn't it? I mean, it just looks better. Let's face it. It just looks.
It looks better. It looks a lot sturdier as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Much sturdier.
Mm-hmm.
I'm intrigued. Yeah. I am intrigued. I think this is a real chance of getting some big wins. Obviously, they're fighting Monsoon first.
Oh, lovely.
Which I think
that'll be so. That'll be a fight.
This is a robot that I can see Monsoon struggling against because of all it. Because as long as they keep their front plow on it, because it's at a certain angle, it means that Monsoon's spinner will struggle to get major purchase on it when it hits it. And with Monsoon's exposed flat top, the axe could do some damage there. So,
given with that said,
watch it get absolutely by Monsoon.
With that said, I think its season really does depend on how much Monsoon does or doesn't do to it. Like obviously, we know the reason they fight is because obviously Tim's transfer teams, all drama, so on and so forth. But like if Monsoon can like give this a good old smashing, gonna be difficult to see how Ragnarok can like recover from that, because obviously it's a big vertical spinner. It's gonna give out the big hits. It's gonna hurt.
I can still see Tim saying Monsoon even if he's on the other team.
Ragnarok! I don't know.
Yeah, right.
Doesn't quite have the same effect, does it?
Please tell me that fire comes out of those pipes at the top.
I don't know. I think because obviously last season you may remember I had to blur out an image of what Jack was preparing for this season, which obviously ended up becoming Ragnarok. It was this robot. It was under a different name, which escapes me for some reason. I don't know what it was, and I believe it was originally meant to, but whether it did in the end, I don't know. And they just focused more weight into the axe. I don't know. We'll see.
Right. Yeah, but it would have been cool for aesthetic.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Ragnarok. Do we think potential top 16 depends on who? Okay, once again, depends on who they fight.
Yeah, depends on who it fights. Could be a breakout robot. Might get smashed into mini pieces. It's
anyone's game.
The problem is, it's just, again, I don't want to sound like a broken record here. It's too difficult to rate it this time around because every robot has a chance.
It does. It really does.
It's annoying.
It really does.
Yeah.
It's
any.
I know it's
driven well.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
That's
really what it comes down to, honestly. You with any potential that any axe robot has here, it's not like drive around with a spinner and hope it hits something. You know what I mean? Not that there's not that there's no
skill in a
not
spinner.
That there's less skill driving a spinner bot, because it's a totally different animal. Trying to deal with gyro forces and it's. I mean, you can look at old fights. I looked up old fights. We talked earlier about Deep Six. When they fought at Robo Games, that robot, they had so much problems with the thing gyroing out of control. The thing would just run around on one wheel and go wee around the arena. So it's a whole different animal. But yeah, axes, you got to be so precise. So yeah, if it's driven well, it could be a shout. You never know. But competition, as we say, is steep.
Yes, absolutely. We'll see how Ragnarok gets on. Now, for the first time ever, I believe in BattleBots, Chinese teams are in the field for the first time, and this is the first of them. It is Railgun MAX.
Oh boy.
This thing looks really, really nice. First of all, it has this big old egg beater drum at the front.
It's packing Swiss cheese.
It's got those side panels, or at least I know the early renders and such that they posted on Facebook had these side panels. It looked like it's got Swiss cheese on the side. It's phenomenal. Yeah. I love the artwork. It looks really regal and smart, and I like it. I really you can see in like 5 years, China have gone building things that you'd see in Series 1 of Robot Wars to like things you see in BattleBots Season 4 reboot. It's amazing. It's amazing how far they've come in such a short amount of time.
They're good, man. It's crazy how much evolution you can see in such a short amount of time, in just one country. They are totally full in on this, and I love it, and it's really making this a global sport, and I hope it spreads even more. Man, I rate Railgun MAX pretty high. I love the design. I've seen it spin up in the test box. The thing is terrifying. The sound it makes is,
it's filthy.
It's
proper dirty.
It is so filthy. I mean, I hope it gets a good run going. I don't know much about the team, obviously, but I wish them the best of luck.
Yep.
This is definitely one to watch out for, in my honest opinion.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's it's shown, it's got all the right pieces, hasn't it? Really, to have a great season. Anderson.
Of all the egg beaters, I think this one looks like it could potentially be the most potent.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Of all the egg beaters in this season, and of all the egg beaters this season, I think this one probably is more likely to make it to the top 16 and probably further. That's not me being horrible to the others. I just think of all of them, if you were to put them all, if we were to have a 3-way egg beater fight like we did last time around with the 3-way with the vertical spinners,
we may still do.
I see this one coming out on top, which we may still get, and hopefully we do, because that'd be awesome. Yeah. I can see this one coming out on top. So.
Yeah, it's a spectacular looking thing, and I think they've obviously there's a lot of boxes that are ticked. They've got the solid chunky tires, nice flat wedgelets at the front with the big drum in the middle. Mm-hmm. It looks the part,
making it look like actual pornography. I mean, it's
just. It has the colours of the Chinese flag. I mean, it's just a lot there is to love about this machine, and I think they've got a great chance of causing a few surprises. I think that's the one of the things they have to keep an eye out for this team. Railgun MAX.
One thing.
Go on.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Railgun MAX. I want to pick something in before we stop talking about it.
Sure.
The belts are interesting, and they're exposed.
They are.
The only thing that I worry about is one of those, like something getting underneath it and ripping one of those drive belts, because usually stuff like that's usually inside the frame. Mm-hmm. But it's I don't know, and the rubber belts, not chains. Mm-hmm. I mean, heck, your car's full of these kind of belts anyway, but they're not getting hit by discs that are 70 some pounds. It's an interesting design choice. Hopefully it doesn't bite them. It looks like they have redundant motors on both sides of that weapon, so if one goes, it can still spin the weapon. So I mean, we'll see.
We will indeed. Anyway, we'll move on from Railgun MAX, the Chinese entry, to another different country. This time it's the Russian entry, which is Rainbow. Obviously, it's I can't remember what the actual the normal name that goes under is, but
because they were in ClashBots, right?
Yeah, it was the. I can't remember. It was a My Little Pony reference of some kind, but I mean, I'm so glad that I know, much like Nelly the Ellybot, they had not issues with like necessarily getting there, but like they were kind of a bit strapped of cash, and I know they had to a bit of crowdfunding to go their way as well to get to BattleBots, which is understandable. It's an expensive thing to have to do, and they made it, which is great.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it was called. It was. Oh no, this is a different robot. They were in ClashBots with a completely different robot.
I don't know what
it was. Energy Bomb.
I can't remember what it was. What's the one?
It looks like a rear hinge flipper they entered with in ClashBots.
Oh, okay. Well, I can't remember what the name of the My Little Pony version of this was, but anyway, I know it was based off that anyway. The name was
right, but we know you're a Brony, so hey.
Hey, look, I mean, nothing wrong with being a Brony, man.
Oh gosh, here we go.
I'm not actually a Brony. Unicorn. Let's go back to Unicorn. No prizes for guessing what robot it's based off. For a start, I mean.
Oh yeah, it's a Tornado, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's maybe.
I mean, if
let's be fair now. It's LGBT Carbide. Come on.
It really is. And in fairness, if you're gonna base a robot off of another one, Carbide's not a bad starting point. Yeah. Let's face it. No. or take inspiration from a design. Carbide isn't a good bad starting point. It again looks nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks cool. It looks the part. they've made it look really, really interesting.
Yeah.
I quite
It's
like
got a
the
little
fact that
bit.
they've managed
It's
to
got a little
get
bit of Jackson Wall.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the colour scheme's really nice.
I like how they've made the bar an actual rainbow. I think that's really, really cool.
Yeah.
Are those ears on the back of it, or are they meant to be?
Well, I mean, let me put it like this: if it goes anything like Carbide does, which I dare say it probably has an E-Tech in there somewhere, like this thing is going to be dangerous. Like you're not going to want to go near it. It's it depends on much as we said already who they fight. I mean, I don't think they'll be there at the sharp end of the tournament, but like you're not going to want to mess with it if it works. Then you're not going to want to mess with it. It's gonna hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll see how Unicorn get on, and I'm glad. Really happy to see that once again a different country, different team are in BattleBots, and they're going to be fighting with Rainbow this time around.
Yeah, we don't get many Russian Federation robots. That's not a place where I would expect a robot to come from. But I guess why not? If we're making robot combat a global sport, bring them in from everywhere.
Absolutely. Fair play to them for getting the machine done and ready to go. Our next entry is one of my favourites. It's one of my favourites for this season because it's just so stupid.
Yep.
It's Ribbot. Now Ribbot is a kind of a Swiss Army, but I know it has a lot of different interchangeable weapons. It has a big wedge with the vertical. It has I don't know if I can mention it. I believe it's a supporter only picture, so we won't talk about that one. But I know there was a fight with another machine. They use a different guise. I think it had wedgelets at the front and and a vert, and I think they have a lifter, and I don't know what the other one is. I can't remember off the top of my head. They loaded pictures of it. I'll try and find those while we're talking about it. I love this thing, but purely because it's just like it's a kind of like a serious entry, and then they just stuck a foam frog over the top. It's great. Like it's just no need for it, and they just said, "Hey, let's just make it rubbish." Oh, it was an undercutter. That was it.
Yeah,
That's
right. Undercutter.
To be fair to them, I mean they have to win points for me for the amazing pun name.
Ribbot.
Ribbots. Come on, I mean, that's amazing.
How has no one thought of this?
So fair play, guys.
How has no one thought of that until 2019?
Yeah.
Took so long.
Yeah.
What do you guys think of Frog Boy?
I mean, it's completely freaking stupid, but it's good fun nonetheless.
It's college team, man. It's Worcester Polytechnic. I mean, this is Paul Ventimiglia's alma mater. So I mean, it's got pedigree already because it's coming from somewhere that's people. I mean, if that college produced that, man, I mean, you never know what else is going to come out of there.
No, absolutely.
Like,
I mean,
anything come out of college. Seriously, anything come out of there.
Yeah, well, I'm starting to call it university more and more and more.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
So that's what it is. Yeah.
Ribbot.
I'm catching on.
Ribbot is I mean, it's a lot of fun, isn't it? Let's face it. It's I don't think it's going to be at the sharp end of the competition again, much like Rainbow. But this thing's great.
Yeah,
who knows? The foam might block spinners.
It could. It could
deflect axes.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I'm not expecting it to be ultra competitive, but like I would be pleasantly surprised if it was able to win fights and certainly put up its own unique challenge to its opponents.
Who's winning out of this in Kingpin?
Oh, this.
I'll wait till I compare their death hums. I need to compare. Yeah. Because Kingpin does have quite a sound that it makes when it spins up.
Yeah, Kingpin's something special. It really is. But obviously, we've talked about Kingpin already. Ribbot. I'm excited to see what Ribbot does. I'm not expecting anything, but it just looks fun, and I think I can't wait to see how Ribbot gets on.
Yeah.
We'll move on to one of the teams that really had a breakout season last time around, and I gotta feel it's gonna be a struggle for them to match it this time, much like Monsoon. It is Rotator. But the looks of things as well, like they kind of stripped back on some armor plating on the sides, to kind of like focus more weight into the weaponry, which I can understand why they've done it. But like, it's a risky move. There's no guarantee that that's going to work.
It's a very risky move, and we saw in season 2 in his match against Witch Doctor that those wheels were suspect to spinners then, with them being that little bit more exposed. I mean, but I don't care. I look forward to seeing this thing again.
They had such a great season last time around, didn't they? I mean, the fight against Icewave was spectacular. I know as much as they lost and they got a beating. They really did get a beating from Bite Force. The fight with Bite Force was spectacular.
Oh yeah.
Like, that was when, Paul really turned the wick up on Bite Force, and, Rotator was given as good as it got for a while, and then, obviously, the Superior Robot won.
Yeah.
Can they maintain that form going into this season?
I don't know. I would love it to, because I like the idea of having a robot that no matter how you flip it, it's going to come back at you. Even though sometimes they use only one disc, depending on who they're fighting.
Mm-hmm.
And I imagine they'll do something similar where they can take that undercutter blade off and have a big front wedge on the front. You know what I mean? I would expect something like that because they did it last time. I like this. I've always liked this one. Even back in season 2 on ABC, even when it got shunted by Witch Doctor immediately and just yeeted almost out of the arena.
Well, it had a good. I think it was in a rumble as well afterwards, didn't it? It was in one of the rumbles and it did quite well there. I want to say.
Yes, definitely, and I would expect it. That was back when. Before we knew that Whiplash was going to be great, we saw this thing tearing up Splatter.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I mean, and that's another thing where like both of those robots had breakout seasons the following year.
Yeah.
And you would have never expected that.
No.
But back to Rotator, yeah, it's got a shot. I do think that maybe it won't be as breakout as last time. I mean, it's so hard to say because it did so well last time and it wasn't expected to.
Yeah.
But now that it has, I think it's going to have a harder part.
Well, this is it, because obviously last time as well, we mentioned Monsoon is probably going to get a tougher draw. So is Rotator. I mean, last time they fought Predator, Petunia, Skorpios, and was it Warrior? Yeah. So of the 4 opponents, it wasn't the easiest of runs, but it wasn't the hardest either. For sure, it wasn't hard. They fought fighting Warrior and Predator, bless it. So maybe they've got a chance. I mean, it's a big ask for Rotator. They're going to get a harder draw this time without doubt because they finished top 8. That's a fact of life. Mm-hmm. It's just whether they can handle the pressure of being one of the big boys again, much like Monsoon can. We'll have to wait and see. Shall we move on?
I think we shall.
Shall we move on
as well
to what I think was probably the most improved robot between seasons last time around, and I think once again, this thing looks industrial. It looks filthy. It is.
The Bay is back.
SawBlaze is back. SawBlaze. This time isn't just a saw. They have a vulture from Robot Wars-esque vertical spinner attachment as well. And I don't know if you boys have seen the test footage of it in the BattleBot in the test box of it gyro dancing on one wheel and just spinning around on one wheel. It's phenomenal to watch. I recommend you go and see the SawBlaze Facebook page and go watch it. This thing looks mean. It looks mean, and I really think that a lot of things are going to struggle with SawBlaze. I mean, obviously, as they did last season. Only Bronco beat it, and Bronco and Monsoon beat it last time. This time it has that kinetic energy weapon. It has the drive power, as we know. It has the arm. It has the big, trident style wedge at the front.
Yeah.
What can beat this thing?
It has the green paint. Yeah.
Itself.
Yeah.
I mean, realistically, it has.
I'm watching the video now. Oh, that's so cool.
It has an answer to everything.
Terrible judges' decisions.
I mean,
that could be. It beat it in the past.
I think it's going to have a lot more of a chance this time with an actual kinetic energy weapon rather than just its saw. I think, as you say, I think the only thing that can beat it is itself, because it has an answer to everything. It has it has a big energy weapon. It has the big plow. It has the drive power. It has a great driver in Jameson Go.
Yep.
It really could be like a top end competitor this time around.
Yeah, it's definitely got me. It's giving me the willies, man.
I will say,
maybe a good flipper.
Maybe.
Yes.
Like maybe Hydra or Bronco, because it's got exposed areas.
Yeah.
And with again, I know he's a very good driver, but depending on who he's going up against, a better driver could always exploit those exposed areas.
Yep.
But that's just the way. There's no robot out there that can that can be unbeatable against everything. There's got to be something that can take it on.
Yeah, absolutely. I will say, I'm kind of disappointed. I know he has the SawBlade attachment as well, just in case.
Yes.
I am kind of
pictures of that.
Yeah, there is, and I'm kind of disappointed to a degree that like the main setup is the kinetic energy spinner, but I can understand why, because at the end of the day that is the meta, and I'm very surprised. There is another robot which takes inspiration from this, but like of all things to like kind of take inspiration from and like be a new meta maybe is Vulture and Bonfire from Team Immersion. Like
who knew that would be like you think of, and no respect to Team Vulture, but like
no respect. What? No disrespect, obviously.
No disrespect. That's what I meant to say. Here, cut that. Reverse it. No disrespect to Team Vulture. There we go.
Yeah.
It's not something you expected to become something that would be replicated. You know what I mean? Because it really didn't do so well in Robot Wars.
No.
Honestly, I think it was just an underdeveloped idea, and obviously this is an evolution of this robot. And that's what I love about the sport, man. Is people look at stuff. People obviously search around and see people's ideas and think, man, I could do that, but better.
I know. I mean, in fairness, I mean, this is also based off Jameson's. I think it's his featherweight, which is Megatron.
Yeah.
So again, he's gonna have lots of experience driving it as well, which is fantastic. So I've got a feeling this could be really at the sharp end of the field. I really do, but we'll have to wait and see how SawBlaze gets on this time around. Our next entry, they kind of arrived late because I don't think Ed expected to be at BattleBots this time around, but due to a clash with King of Bots' schedule. I mean, if you haven't seen his King of Bots entry, which is of course Excelsior, you should go and check that out because it is a damn work of art, and you should go and appreciate what Ed's created, because he's a brilliant guy, and he's really generous and nice as well. Come back, Ed. We had him on the podcast last year. I'd like to see him come back.
Yeah, that was a great podcast. That was.
I'd like to see him come back. I'm sure he can give us some good inside intel. He's back with Sharkoprion, slightly modified from last season. There's no dorsal fin this time, so it can actually run upside down if they needed to.
Yeah, man.
Which is really could help him out. Sharkoprion was not a bad design last time.
Not at all.
It was
the only problem with Sharkoprion is I think its spin is too hidden.
Yes.
I'm almost certain the nose point comes out further than the actual disc does.
Yes. Well, it's close. I mean, it protects the disc very well. It's just that I think the teeth do just flick out a bit further than the nose.
The range of attack on that disc isn't enough.
No.
That's the only problem I have with it.
But it is an art boss.
Oh yeah.
And and obviously it's lovely. Sharkoprion is lovely.
Yeah.
It's a big shark. What's not to love?
Mm-hmm. I'm sure you got new propane tanks, which is totally good.
Hell yeah.
Totally into that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, new recycled propane.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah.
That's what I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
it's definitely we could say he's like a modern day Mr. Dig, maybe, with like recycling parts.
It's not that's not too far off. It's definitely one of those robots where you look at it and said, man, I like robots like this because it looks like anyone could build this. And I like that.
Yeah.
It's you could go into your shed or garage or garage.
Yeah.
Trying to include everybody here.
Yeah.
But it looks like something. I mean, I'm not an artist. I probably couldn't draw that face. But it's definitely something that's attainable for teams. And I like the fact that we're gonna have a couple robots on here that people could be like, oh, I could do something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I like how this is. It makes this whole BattleBot scene look more approachable because, man, does it look like it's a serious competition sometimes.
Oh yeah.
That people talk about, but I mean I like Shirley as much as anybody.
Oh yeah.
It's one of those robots that like you're just excited to see it no matter what. Anyhow.
Yeah.
And I think it was a really competitive robot last year. It's a shame it didn't get a shot at the top 16 last time. But who knows? Barring who knows? We know nothing about the show, so we have no idea whether or not it actually is in or isn't. It's one of those robots that I would love to see get a good shot.
I'd like it to get a cameo at least, because obviously we know obviously Ed did.
We know it got there late.
Yeah, exactly, because Ed didn't realise that. Well, not that he didn't realise it. He didn't enter anticipating that the schedules were going to clash. So
exactly.
Yeah. Anderson. You loved Sharko last year. Obviously, we loved having Ed on the podcast as well. He was a really, really nice guy. what do we have to say about Sharkoprion?
You guys have said it all. Again, yeah. No, like I said, I just really do. I mean, like I said, that's the only worry, but it's good fun to see it again.
Yeah.
And I hope we get to see it up against one fun machine. I would
like to see this. This
Well,
versus
against
Mammoth.
That'd
Yes,
be
that'd be a great fight. I had exactly the same thought. This
Against
versus Mammoth.
Chipping.
Or Ribbot. This versus Ribbot. That'd be
Ribbot.
amazing.
A shark versus a frog. What's not to love?
Yeah. Well, you gotta have. You gotta have the extinct animals with Mammoth and Sharko.
Yes, that'd be amazing.
So yeah. So but definitely a frog versus a shark fight would be all right. We gotta have an all animal brawl, man. That'll get everybody.
Yeah,
excited.
let's have Mammoth in there, Nelly, Sharko.
Yeah, just
Frog.
a big like 6-7 way robot fight.
Yeah, all the animals.
We need
actually
rumbles,
quite a
man.
lot There are quite a few animal-themed machines this season, actually.
There
It's
really
starting to feel a bit like Series 3 of Robot Wars.
Yeah, the Animal Farm series. Absolutely. So next up is the Bots FC entry for 2019's BattleBots, which we haven't actually seen Bots FC in BattleBots since it's come back. But obviously they've had good success over the years with Mega Melvin. They've obviously entered King of Bots with Blue, which was actually pink. I don't really understand either.
I don't know either.
But they've come to BattleBots with the entry called Shatter, and by the way, the way that this body shell is designed is phenomenal. Like the kind of the geometric shapes and the angles, it all looks really nice, really nice. Obviously has mechanism wheels as well, which it means it can literally just drift circles all day, as long as it wants to. It's a it's a nice looking machine, and the hammer, as we know from Mega Melvin, is very powerful. Very powerful.
Oh yeah,
It is a bit tasty, isn't it?
it's a scary thing to see live.
This thing it hits hard. I mean, we saw in King of Bots it had the hammer which caused literal sparks when it hit things. I think it's because it's made out of titanium because reasons. But it's just such a nice looking machine. Do we think it's gonna get chewed up? Probably, but like it's such a nice robot, and I'm really excited to see how Shatter gets on in BattleBots.
Yeah, I don't know, because like you said, there's a lot of angles in there, and yeah, I don't know if Spinners might struggle a little bit against it. I'm not too sure. One thing I am looking forward to though is seeing that hammer come down, because that thing, to see it happen in BattleBots, man, it'd be so nice. And I mean, I'm really happy that overhead weapons are starting to become a thing again. I really am, because there was quite a long time where they were sort of being phased out.
I mean, last season there was one hammer. There was one hammer last time.
Yeah.
That was Chomp.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in Robot Wars, I mean, again,
There was
modern
Thor.
season, what do we have? We had Thor and Terahertz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this thing was supposed to be in Robot Wars, but they got turned
Miss
down.
Nightshade?
I don't know if you count Miss Nightshade.
This Nightshade was special. it was very special. I mean, there was Apocalypse as well.
Oh yeah, Apocalypse, of course. Sorry, I do apologise. That's a good looking machine. Anyway,
Bonk.
back to Shatter. Yeah, I just I hope it doesn't break under the pressure. Really. Sorry. Oh yeah, that was scraping the bottom of the barrel.
Hope it
I
doesn't
will
have
admit.
7
The
years
only
of
thing
bad
I'm worried
luck,
about is maybe
you know
that
what I mean, when you break it.
Yeah.
is that a chain on the axe mechanism there, or is that a cog? I'm crap with this sort of thing.
It is. I think it is another electric axe. Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, cool. I was going to say that if that's a chain, it might be a little bit.
I also have to say,
suspect.
Bots FC. This is a complete side tangent here, but Bots FC has one of my favourite featherweight designs as well. I don't know if you've ever seen Knockoff White. I believe that is Bots FC.
I have never seen it.
So
if you can send me a picture I can gawk at it in amazement.
Off White is a very high end fashion brand, which always has like things in quotation marks. It always it's always like. It's very funny, like, and just the fact that they just put wedge, legs, knock off.
What a weapon!
what a great, and the phone's calling, even better.
Well, we got our first caller, which is a miracle. This isn't the calling show.
Yeah, it's live. It is live. Knock off. So anyway, Knock Off White was one of my favourite featherweights, and I love Bots FC's machines in general. They've always turned up with some really cool machines, and I believe the guy's name's is it Adam something or other. I can't remember. But anyway, Bots FC and Shatter.
Yeah. We'll
really...
become very much more familiar with this team as the season goes on.
Absolutely.
I'm excited.
I am also really excited to see how Shatter gets on. And we will move on to another new entry, but I believe that it's another college team.
It's another Vex Robotics team that decided, hey, let's build a robot.
It is indeed, and it is Team Shellshock once again, making vast improvements from Series 7 of Robot Wars. Radically different design. I believe this is the third different Shellshock team.
Yeah,
easily. Yeah, there's been 3 different Shellshock machines, all from different teams.
Yeah.
It doesn't help.
No. I mean,
it doesn't help.
I mean, Shellshock at this point is almost as popular as flipping Spin Doctor. You know, Jesus Christ, Spin Doctor's been around.
I'm gonna say this now. I really hope that this team come dressed as Mario and Luigi.
Yeah. You know what? I'm gonna say
thing.
something
That
because
is a
there was
green
an
shell
old
for Mario.
Yeah. There was an old photo floating around that it was. I think it was going to be blue at one point, and that would have been freaking perfect. As you know, the blue spiny shell's the killer of all greens.
Yeah, the blue shell.
I'm surprised they didn't go with that.
Any control over those
things. And Anderson knows the pain of my blue shells. That's for sure.
Oh, I do, because he's a bell. Put this on the record. Sam Elliott, 64, is a bell at Mario.
I'm just good at Mario Kart, man. Just don't hate the player, hate the game. Shellshock. We'll move back to Shellshock. Full body spinner, and according to this as well, has a defensive system. Now, by that, I imagine that means the teeth will retract and it'll just be like a flat dome, and I think that would be quite hard to hit, like from any particular angle, really. We won't be able to really hit it with a hammer. Spinners will kind of glance off it, maybe.
I think what they mean is a defensive system. I think I watched a video online. They have electromagnets at the bottom of this robot.
Oh, interesting.
So the idea is that you can turn those on and it'll stay where it is, so that when something hits it, it doesn't like get flung across the arena. Now we have talked about the amount of paint that's on the ground and how magnets on tracks or with beta, like we've seen robots have trouble using magnets on this, even though it's steel. So I'm interested to see how successful this system is. I mean, I think it's a good idea. I don't know how well it works in practice because, I mean, from what we've seen with previous robots and even with I think didn't Chomp have magnets and then
Chomp had a lot going on, didn't it? Bless it.
Yeah, but it's another comparison I can make.
North.
Yeah.
Send it flying through the air, Jesus.
Yeah. So I'm curious to see how it works. It doesn't work, we'll see.
Yeah.
What is that spike on the top?
I
think meant to be a Shremek or something.
I imagine so. If you remember last time around, obviously Gigabyte had that pole sticking out the top to kind of keep the whole thing on, which snapped.
Yes.
I imagine it's a similar concept. It's basically going to be there to hold the whole shell on, basically.
Yeah. So if it jettisons out, we're going to see another naked robot on the floor. So
cool. Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
Daddy.
It's going to be R-rated. That's for sure.
Cool.
Shellshock looks pretty fun to me, and best of luck to the team, and I think that'll be good fun to watch. I hope we get like a Vex Robotics team rumble. That'll be quite fun.
Oh, that'd be super cool.
Yeah, we'll see. Speaking of interesting designs, this, I mean, oh boy, I mean, where do I start with this? Because it's Sidewinder.
Yes, it reminds me of it's got like that gladiator look to it, and then you stuck Tombstone on the side of it as like a budding piece. You know what I mean?
Do you know, have you ever seen the Family Guy sketch?
What it looks like, right, is
go on.
Somebody's got a how to build a bot manual and lost half the pages, or got confused halfway through.
I'm starting to think that this team and Electric Ray have talked before.
Well, what I was going to say was, have you ever seen the Family Guy sketch where there's the guy with the small deformed head living on his shoulder?
Yeah.
That's what this reminds me of. Don't get me wrong, I think this is a very ingenious design.
Yeah.
So like they could just drive around in circles and just like keep someone penned in with that spinner. Like they're going to be really tough to hit because they're going to have the wedge that's going to be able to deflect the spinners in turn, and then they can just kind of turn in and like kind of keep that weapon angled at their opponents at all times.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's an interesting idea. Whether it works or not remains to be seen, obviously, of course. But it's such a out there thing. I mean, why? Why did they think of this?
I think this would benefit from
Drugs.
from Mechanism Drive. You know what I mean?
Drugs. They would benefit from drugs. Is how it sounded to me.
Did you hear what I? Did you
Yes,
hear what I?
Mechanism Drive. Mechanism Drive.
I think it would benefit from Mechanism Drive.
Yeah, I think so. It's a not a bad shout actually. I mean, whether they had the weight to do it is something else.
That's beside the point.
It would benefit for them putting the weapon in the right place, but whatever.
Well, what's interesting about this is like, what do you focus on the most when you're driving a robot like this? Do you focus on ramming them with your wedge, or do you go after them with your weapon?
There's a lot going on here, isn't there? I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued to see how it works out for Sidewinder. Yeah. I'm not expecting miracles, but they might be a really tough opponent to beat because you don't know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll leave Sidewinder for now.
It's got 2 racing stripes, by the way. It's already.
There you go. So
exactly. That's going to win this. It's going to win the season now.
There you go. Sidewinder has won for just having racing stripes. Moving on to another breakout competitor last season. I think this was really their big season, wasn't it? Last time around, it was Skorpios, or Skorpios, whichever you prefer the pronunciation of. And obviously, they've also very interestingly gone for the same approach that SawBlaze did with having a big kinetic energy spinner.
Yeah.
It is interesting that they both did it at the same time as well. Like they both kind of thought, okay, let's do this now.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys saw the amount of spares that they had under their bench on their Facebook page, but they have a lot of spares.
Oh, brother.
Yeah, well, to be fair, after last season, they kind of need to.
I mean, they ran out. They ran out of parts, and they had to go to a literal, DIY store, buy an angle grinder and stick it on a pole. It was kind of sad that like Skorpios were so close to that top 16. And I think they would have got in as well. I'm fairly certain they were offered the place, and they had to say, "Nah, we're done, boys. We're out."
This is like Greg Gibson coming back with Yeti the second time and bringing just a shit ton of tires.
Yeah, this thing looks fantastic. I mean, I like the increased profile of the angled wedge at the front.
Yeah,
there's it just looks like a more menacing machine. I love it. I love this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think things are going to get stuck on the front on that wedge, and it's going to keep them there, and it's going to just hopefully do what it should do, and just this looks more vulture-y to me.
Yes, I agree.
Definitely.
So I mean, just by the shape of it.
I also think as well, like as you mentioned, those kind of hooks on that front plow,
yes.
I get a lot of Voltronic Voltark kind of inspiration, like kind of keep them off the ground, not necessarily,
static,
yeah, like obviously, it's static, but like it's that kind of idea of like keep them off the ground just so, and then hit them with the big weapon. I love it. I know Skorpios and SawBlaze obviously very similar concepts, but I think Skorpios has always been a bit in SawBlaze's shadow. I think this season could be the other way around. I think Skorpios has a real shot at upsetting a few teams.
I still worry about how exposed that actuating point is.
Yes,
because that got hit pretty hard last time by Rotator, and hoping that maybe that doesn't happen this time, but it is still a glaring shot here because I know it's happened before. So hopefully that doesn't happen again.
Yeah. Anderson.
I'll be honest. I actually don't see it doing as well this time around, myself personally. I just don't think, unlike Skorpios, there are not Skorpios, sorry, twonk, SawBlaze.
This is Skorpios.
Their arms sort of angled, so obviously that means that with that kinetic spinner, it's sort of reaching over and hitting them. Meanwhile, this one's more like got an axe flow to it, and I don't think that would work as well as a sort of piercer going down with a spinner, if that makes any sense.
I know what you mean.
Honestly, I don't see it doing as well as it did last time around, but we know I'm always wrong with these sorts of things, so I look forward to seeing it in the top 6.
Give yourself some credit.
No, I'm always wrong with these things. Always wrong with them.
We never know. You never know. We'll leave Skorpios there. Best of luck to Orion Beach and the team. I think I would love to if those guys would like to come on as well. If you're out there, Orion, hit us up. We'd love to hear you from you. We'll move on to Steve's pick to win for season 2.
No, I'm never gonna live this down.
Son of Whyachi. I mean, I can see why you chose them to do it because let's face it, it's a big honking spinner on a chassis. Like
it's I don't know. I've gotten cold on Whyachi a little bit. It's got 2 seasons now where it just didn't do what it was supposed to do. I think it's just one of those robots that I don't know, man. There's so much mass in that spinner. I think it's one of those robots where the tri-bar it's a good idea. There's less bite.
And the phone's back.
Alrighty. Anyway, it's just a bunch of robocalls. Man, America is fun. So it's a robot that you always think like it's going to do well because it's Whyachi. It won season 3, but it was overweight. So it's one of those robots where I just don't think it's ever met that same level of quality that it did back in, like, what was it, 2001 or 2. I don't mean to tear into it. It's more of like a what have you done for me lately? It's one of those robots that I just don't know how to rate it because it just confuses me so. There's potential there, and it's just like maybe I'm just mad it didn't win Series 2.
Maybe.
One thing I've noticed is it's very much a machine which it likes to do really, really well when it doesn't matter so much.
Yeah.
And then when it comes up to a big match that matters, it just flops.
I get maybe it's like so I think its real low point was when it fought Brutus last season, and I think that was a real low point for that team because like Whyachi is obviously a big scary spinner. Brutus just literally drove up to it and it fell over, and that was it. Yeah. Credits to Brutus, they got the win fair and square. It's just that you kind of thought, oh yeah, Whyachi's just going to blow this thing away, and it never did. Obviously, they got the kind of the form going. They beat Endgame, Monsoon. I can't remember the last one who they fought, but they beat some. Oh, it was Lucky. It was Lucky, wasn't it?
And they got a little multi-bot this time around as well. I see.
Well, they've had that for the last 2 seasons as well. It's like
I love those little wedges.
Look, if I had a robot and it got beats on that thing, I'd be vexed.
Anyway, so back to Whyachi quickly. They lost last time to Lockjaw. Lockjaw obviously was driven spectacularly in that fight, and I think they were kind of unlucky not to go through.
Yeah.
But with that said, I mean, it's getting to that stage, much like Bronco, where we said, the door's closing. I think the door might be closing on Son of Whyachi as well. Like, it's a top tier machine, sure, but like, is it the cream of the crop anymore? Is it really? I mean,
you can only stay in the same place for so long before everything overtakes you.
Exactly. Yeah, and we saw that with Nightmare, honestly.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why that's not back. I think, and I think, I know Whyachi has entered the other. We already talked about Hydra, and I
Falcon,
think that's
sure.
And Falcon, yeah, and it's a robot that are those robots like it's neat to see how Whyachi. I mean, they have a lot of robots, but it's cool to see different designs from them. I mean, when you think classic BattleBots, I mean, people think of Whyachi, of course, and what was his name from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. who said that this was first we had Whyachi and then this was the son of Whyachi. That is still cringy. It's when you think classic BattleBots, you think son of Whyachi, but I don't know. It just I don't know. I love it to bits and then I hate it at the same time because it just doesn't do anything for me like it used to. I think it needs to evolve somehow, and I think they could. They obviously have the machine shop for it. They have the brains for it because they make beautiful machines. I don't know.
We'll see. I mean, again,
I hate to be such a downer.
No, I agree. I think that this is much like with Bronco. It's a make or break season.
Yeah, I would think so, and I think
for this
it's not
version of the
successful
robot
this time, I just don't see it coming back again.
Or in this format. Certainly.
In this form, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll move on from Sao, and move on to a team that kind of started off really slowly last time, but then like towards the end of it, I had a really decent fist of it last time, considering the opponents that they fought. It is SubZero, and my goodness, SubZero has glowed up.
It's finally evolved. I love the evolution of these machines, man, because SubZero's been around for such a long time.
Yeah.
And it's cool to see it. It's cool to see it looks up to Bronco, man. I mean, it looks very Bronco.
Yeah, it's hit the gym. It's hit the gym.
It's like they took Bronco and with a piece of tracing paper by the looks of things, and looked at how they did things, and they've chucked it onto SubZero. There's nothing wrong with that. Bronco's a fantastic machine, and obviously.
Imitation is the best form of flattery, man.
Absolutely. SubZero, we've kind of not criticised them as such, but like we've pointed out over the last couple of seasons. We expected last time it didn't look quite right. It was the wrong kind of shape. They had who did they fight last time? They fought Huge and got decimated.
They fought Minotaur and got decimated.
They fought Minotaur and got decimated. They fought Shredder, got decimated but still won. And who else did they fight? I think they fought another spinner.
It was Chomp. Was it Chomp?
No, there was another spinner they fought, I think.
Shite.
I can't remember. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Alright.
This new version of SubZero, it looks the part. It looks much more chunky. It looks like, as Anderson quite rightly put it, it's hit the gym.
Yeah. It looks more slimline but more muscly, if that makes any sense.
Toned.
It looks toned. Yeah. I'm gonna say this as well though. I mean, the main question though is, has that amazing manly beard come back? Because we need a manly beard on this team. It's just the rule. You have to have a manly beard. Every team should have one. It should be a rule. But no, I am genuinely excited to see this because I honestly was a bit disappointed with SubZero last time around. Mm-hmm. I was telling this to Steve actually not long ago. I'm a big fan of this style of flipper. The Toro style flipper, the bit where a little bit sticks out and then a big arm flies. I just thought it looks really, really cool on camera. And I think they're really, really powerful. And I was really devastated to see SubZero not really perform that well last time around. So I really, really, really hope they do well this time. I honestly do.
Yeah, I think they've obviously learnt their lessons. They've gone away and they thought, right, okay, what do we need to do to make SubZero better? And it clearly looks the part now. So
they put it on keto and it worked.
Yeah,
it looks really cool as well.
That was. I think you got a frosty reception for that one, Anderson.
Oh man.
We'll move on.
Cold.
It was. Yeah, we'll move on to one of the best looking machines last time around, and I really love this new version as well. It looks phenomenal.
Wacky.
It's Tantrum. It's Tantrum with a it's a vertical spinner on what looks like to be like an actuator to launch it forward and like a big fist essentially. Obviously it got a fist stuck in the battle box last time after Tombstone.
That's just what I thought.
Which was great. That exhibition fight was wonderful. This thing, it looks so different. But if you remember a few months back, it was a good while ago now. They uploaded that video of that metal piece flying.
It's not a flipper.
It's not a flipper.
We thought it was a flipper.
We thought it was a flipper, but it wasn't. It was a spinner. It was a vertical spinner, and this is a really interesting take on it.
Definitely. I mean, you got to give them 10 out of 10 for originality on this one.
Yeah.
I don't think
there's no other robot like this. They win.
This has never been done. Never been done.
I really like. I mean, look, it's very different. It looks wacky. It's bright orange. It's machined beautifully as well. Just as it was last season. It's a really nicely engineered robot. Obviously, originality does sometimes come at a price of, say, competitiveness, but I think this thing's got a really good chance compared to last time. What do you guys think?
It's the physics behind it. Like, I'm trying to think of, like, when you have a vertical spinner, and here's my engineering side I come out. Are you ready? So you have rotational energy. You have rotational kinetic energy. So you have your moment of inertia times your what is that? Your angular velocity, or is that angular? Yeah, that was what. Okay, here we go. But you also have your linear kinetic energy. So you have this thing punching out at a rate. I don't know how fast this linear actuator goes, but the way from what we've seen in those videos with it launching things distances, it's got me intrigued. I'm a little worried that wedge is a little steep, but I mean, let's say it comes up against something like a Rotator or a Valkyrie, it might have a little trouble. But if it can get up underneath something that's got some slanted ground clearance, because you see these robots that have these anti-wedges to deflect against horizontals.
Yep.
It could have a shot to really shock some people, because it's one of those robots last year, Tantrum, that I think we had an inkling that it wasn't going to be knocking on the door for the top 16, but I knew it was going to have some kind of fight in it. You know what I mean? It's obviously it was a spring flipper last time, and it was strong. I don't think we really saw it on the show, unfortunately. But,
well, I mean, against Tombstone, we kind of saw how durable it could be.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely!
It didn't really take that much damage. It took obviously the fist.
Yeah, the two decorative fists came off. That was it.
Yeah. That's really it, and it's definitely. I mean, it's got a shot to really turn some heads. The thing is, it's such an unknown because we've never seen a robot like this before. So I'm very, very excited to see how it does.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And Tantrum, again, we've said it already, but fair play for something completely different. We've not seen anything quite like it before, so we'll see how they get on. I don't know how invertible it's going to be. I'm assuming those two fins.
If at all.
Well, I'm assuming those two fins on top of like the. I'm guessing that's the disc mechanism through the middle. I'm assuming if they bring it right to the front, it can run on the back wheels. I think, but I'm not sure.
Or maybe that could sort of like work as a way of catapulting the robot over. Maybe.
I
got back onto it. Who knows? It's Tantrum. It's going to be fun.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
man.
For sure. For sure, it's going to be big fun. Big fun time for everyone. Back again will also be Fuzzy, and obviously he's taken a radically different approach to what happened last time with hypothermia. He's actually not named his robot after a cold, cold front or a cold base weather event. Would you believe it?
It's a shame. I mean, it just doesn't. It's not Team Toad. What's going on? Well, I mean, I suppose it is. It's got 4 wheels.
Yeah, this is very true. It's got 4 wheels. It's and I believe the well, it has a drone as well this time around, which was borrowed from SubZero. So I suppose it does have some kind of.
I'm just glad that Spitfire is in one piece right now.
Yeah, it got shredded last time, didn't it? Bless it.
Was so funny.
You got to love how it's a flying flamethrower basically. It's a flamethrower drone, and they've actually called it Spitfire.
Yeah.
I think that again gets
Clever.
points for puns.
Clever.
Brilliant.
Well, they brought Spitfire back.
I saw this in a test video before it was painted.
Yes.
It looked and sounded filthy. I mean, I'm talking. Oh, Jesus Christ!
We're of course talking about.
We've seen some spinners on Polar Vortex back. Like I don't know how much of Robo games you guys have watched, but I mean, this is a whole different size of weapon on this thing because it's basically the Polar Vortex frame. It's based on obviously, but man, this thing.
But it's also like very similar to Marvin, as we mentioned earlier. Like kind of has
Yes.
that angled spinner at the front, and then if it gets flipped over, it's then an undercutter, which is also a different type. They can start it either way, sort of thing. So they could put it upside down in a fight where they think, okay, an undercutter will do better here than say a horizontal. It's obviously named Texas Twister, which I don't think we mentioned, but anyway, we'll call it again. Texas Twister. It looks, it's obviously. It looks kind of like Hypothermia's more buff cousin. It just looks beefy, and I think Team Toad will come back with a point to prove. They had a rough season last time.
Yeah.
Definitely.
They had some tough opponents. Obviously, they had to fight Whiplash, Minotaur. Didn't quite go to plan. I think eventually they did get a win against Four Horsemen with the big wedge. But it's. Does it have the killing power to get in the top 16? I think, obviously the video that we saw of it testing certainly has some firepower to it, but, does it have the longevity, do you reckon?
It's a Team Toad robot.
Yeah.
What does that
that's
mean?
the problem. They've always. This is not me being a dick. Well, I mean, okay, maybe I'm being a little bit of a dick here when I say this, but they've never really had much success in the past.
True enough.
That's my look on it, but it will still be good fun to watch it.
But it's exciting, it's an exciting, different concept to what happened last time with Fuzzy, and I think, it's gonna be interesting to watch, that's for sure. I'm intrigued to see how, Texas Twister does fare against certainly the BattleBots floor, that's for sure, but we'll see
that for a lot of these guys.
Yeah, this is very true. We'll see how Texas Twister gets on. It looks certainly beefy, so we'll have to wait and see how they go on.
Twisters are quite apocalyptic events, I would say.
Well, and that's a very good segue. You set that up. You set that up so well. I mean, obviously, we mentioned briefly the Four Horsemen fought hypothermia last time as well.
I will say, can I at the point that we're recording this, there was an episode of Jeopardy yesterday, which if you guys aren't watching that. There's this guy that is just straight up dominating everybody, and there was a Final Jeopardy question that was based on the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse, and I only knew that because of BattleBots. So thanks, Team Big Brother.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, sure.
Thanks for that, Steve. Cheers.
Four Horsemen. They've obviously refined the formula a bit there. They've got 2 wedges, 2 spinners. Just in case. They're going more defensive or offensive.
I'm sorry, but this robot's a complete lie. It's called the Four Horsemen.
And it's
There's 5 parts, and they can only use 3 of them at one time.
Yeah.
So it's a lie.
The 5 clever boys.
It's like Madison Square Garden. It's a lie. It's not a square, and it's not a garden, and it's exactly the same here.
And it's not a woman called Madison. There you go. Yeah. Four Horsemen.
I mean,
I'm going to be honest. I'm a bit disappointed that they've come back again with it, because we've seen this machine under various different guises now in various different shows, and they've all had the very same limited success. And I was kind of hoping we'd see something different from Team Big Brother this time around. We know that Ian Watts can make good robots, and I'd like to see him try something different for a change. So I'm actually a little bit disappointed that they've come back with the Four Horsemen again myself.
I mean, obviously, there's a certain Orte that's sitting at home. Like, it would have been interesting to see how a Brit Flipper would have gone on at BattleBots with it.
Don't remind me of the sadness that was my Orte pick.
Oh, mate.
I can see why you went for it.
I was come on, man! All I could think about was the last time I'd seen a Big Brother robot. Well, besides Series 7.
Out the arena.
It was so rugged, and then you get one little nick, and it's like, oh, that's it. So, but I would have loved to have seen a Orte-like robot. It doesn't have to be that robot, but I mean, we know maybe he wasn't. Maybe it was. Maybe in the back of Ian's head that when he brought Little Sister over, maybe even then there were robots that could beat that design. So maybe it wasn't fit for BattleBots. So he brings the Four Horsemen again. I'd love to get his input on that, but yeah. I mean, who knows?
I mean, the thing is with the Four Horsemen is, like, as much as it's not necessarily the most effective design, it is effective. Like, I think a lot of people underestimate how good it actually is.
Definitely.
You know, last time it did some pretty good damage. You know, it did damage to Behemoth in Series 10, you know,
and lost everything it went again. But okay.
I mean, it did the business. You know, it has the weaponry to do some damage. It has the wedges to, you know, funnel people into the weapons.
Yeah,
it's a decent idea, and I think multibots can work. It just depends on the effectiveness of how well they're driven.
Just put 250 ant weights in there. That'll see how that works.
See, the other problem I have with it, and this is just me being nitpicky. Honestly, I'm happy to admit this is just me being nitpicky. I don't like cluster bots or multi-bots like this, where it's just a bunch of robots thrown next to each other and said, there you go. For example, in my opinion, a cluster bot's something like Gemini from Robot Wars, or like V3 from the Dutch Robot Wars, where they all come in together as one robot and then split up. This is just a bunch of lightweights put next to each other and said, oh yeah, that's one robot. No, it's not. It's three lightweights. It's different, in my opinion. I'm not a fan.
So you're after a full cluster rather than like a cluster?
Yeah.
Okay, it's fair enough, you know.
It's just preference. It's like I also don't like it when people when teams enter a heavyweight robot and then a featherweight and say, "Oh yes, this is a cluster bot." No, it's not. it's a heavyweight robot and then a cluster bot.
You know the evolution of this is like people entering like nanobots that like eat your robot, like just tear it apart, like molecule by molecule, and then you win. So it's like swarm, like, you know, it's just like a cloud of nanobots.
I don't know. Back to Four Horsemen, if I may.
Very science fiction.
Back to Four Horsemen, if I may. Obviously, they had a decent enough run last time. I think they got a win in the end, didn't they? In the Rumble. I think it was it Gamma 9 and Double Jeopardy?
Gamma 9 and Double Jeopardy, yeah.
Yeah. You know, and it's not a bad set of machines. I think they've got a decent shot of pulling a surprise win. Will they get top 16? I don't think so, but strange things have happened. You never know.
Yeah, well, we'll see.
We'll indeed see. Moving on from the Four Horsemen is basically the same thing, really. It's Tombstone. Tombstone, I mean, do we need to really talk about it? It's the same Tombstone as we know and love. Yep. I've got a feeling, though, that Ray is going to really be gunning for this year.
Yeah.
Like,
I think he still has bad dreams of driving over his own chain.
I mean, he's bought 2 frames this time. I think he only had the one last year, I think.
Yeah. Didn't he have to go home and make
and remake another one because Minotaur chewed it up so bad?
Shoo.
God damn. But
yeah, I as long as it doesn't run into the craziness that was
Bombshell
last time. Well, the thing is, I still can't believe that happened. It's one of those moments where you just didn't expect it, but you knew it was possible. It's just something that you didn't expect. I think Ray's gunning for it this year. Obviously, he's gunning for it every year.
Yeah.
I mean, we know what this robot can do. Everyone's seen it. Everyone knows what it's capable of. There's nothing new here.
Yeah. Apart from the bar that was donated to Ray by a Mr. Jerome Miles.
Hey.
He kindly donated a spare bar, I believe, and I mean, it's.
Yeah, but how much alcohol's behind it?
Anyway, Tombstone is Tombstone. We know what it's capable of. Yeah. I don't think we really need to dwell too long on it. Can it reclaim the title? What do we think?
It's always possible. Yeah, I mean, this is something that this is another robot that loses by killing itself.
Yeah, true.
I mean, that's really all it comes down to.
I think Bombshell would have beat it had it not driven over its own chain. I still think Bombshell was winning that fight.
Yeah,
maybe it was winning the fight.
I think as well as that, the Bombshell was starting to get a bit tired towards the end of if Ray hadn't driven over his chain, I think eventually Tombstone would have just won it.
Yeah, there were no weapons at that point, so.
Then again, Tombstone was pushing them around the arena. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, Tombstone's not a pushy bot.
No, it's really not. It's really not.
But anyway,
we'll leave Tombstone for there. For later. Obviously, it's a phenomenal machine, and I'm sure it'll be at the sharp end of the competitive order once again. This time around, our next entry is a new team. It's it's so weird. I just love the fist. The fist of
Take
Uppercut.
That out of context, everybody.
Yep, I love the fist. That's a soundbite that's staying in.
We've got that on tape, ladies and gentlemen.
Yep, I love the fist from Uppercut.
We've been doing this for a long time when stuff like that.
Yep, it really is. It really is. It's a vertical spinner with a giant fist through the middle. I mean, what's not to love? Really, it's great. I love it. It's great. I would have liked
another MIT robot, man. It's
yeah. I mean... They do make their robots out there, don't they? They sure do.
Yes, they do.
But I think it's missing a letter out of its name. I won't actually say it on.
Oh, stop it!
Don't be such a dirty boy.
Oh, Uppercut.
I thought you were gonna say supper.
We're not gonna say the word.
I thought you were gonna say supper cut, but okay.
Supper cut. We're not gonna say the actual word because it's naughty. But yeah, I'm sure you can fill in.
Can I say it once?
No, I'm sure you can fill. I'm sure.
I think we're off the air.
Yeah, we can safely say that. Anyone out there who obviously doesn't know it, you can comment below what it actually is. If you do, then you'll get a prize from us. Uppercut. It's a fairly bog standard vertical spinner. Like obviously has that. I don't know how it's going to work because is it kind of like the bit at the top spins and then it launches the fist out like a jabber?
It looks like a single bar, like a single tooth spinning thing.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting.
Somehow it's balanced. You know what I mean? Because that thing sticks out awful far.
It does. Or maybe it's like a spinning lifter.
I don't know.
It's kind of like Mammoth. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Maybe I don't know. I think that thing has got some speed behind it. I could be way off, but.
Do we think it's got a? It doesn't. I don't think it's going to be that competitive. I'll be honest with you.
No, really? I don't think it's got too much of a chance. But never say never, eh?
It's a fun robot.
I would love to see it do something.
Yeah, I would love to see it.
Oh yeah,
smashing
I'd
things
love
up.
to see it do well. I just don't see it happening.
No, not me. It's.
We'll check back in a few weeks.
And well done to the finalist Uppercut. Unlucky to lose to Kingpin. Very.
Oh yeah.
Very very unlucky.
With axe backwards coming third.
Yeah, that's it. I can't believe they even beat Four Horsemen along the way. They had a great season.
Yeah. Four Horsemen beat Tombstone, Bite Force, and Bronco all in succession. Jesus!
All in one rumble. It was amazing. And the phone's back again. Anyway,
I literally have it sitting in front of me just to press the friggin' off button.
I love that. The phone's gone off 3 times in this podcast. I mean, we have to go a while, to be fair.
Yeah.
We'll move on to one of the robots that we've really started to appreciate more and more and more towards the end of last season. It is Valkyrie.
Yes.
Another MIT team. Valkyrie's phenomenal. We're all really impressed with it towards the end of last season. When they dialed out the issues that they had early on, it really started to give out some good hits. It had that it has a really powerful weapon. Clever design. They can hit from the back as well if they need to.
Yeah.
There's a lot of weapon and not much body to hit.
Can do amazing wheelies.
It can.
For anybody who hasn't seen the off-TV fight with an overhaul, go watch it.
Go watch that.
That's what we're expecting from Valkyrie this time.
Well, obviously it's more dialed in than it would have been last season.
Definitely. I would hope so, yes.
I think this thing.
I'm sure Leanne's done her homework. And
Yeah.
It's and that team is totally into it this time, because I mean, I don't know, man. It's an undercutter, man. I mean, you don't see those. I mean, we got more this time, but
yeah,
whatever.
I think this could sneak into the top 16.
I would like it to, yes.
I think they've got a good chance. It's a very decent weapon. It's got, you know, whether it's got the drive power to do it, I don't know. I don't know if they have the issue as like, because when the weapon wasn't working last season, they struggled to drive.
Yes.
So whether that's still a thing, I don't know. But
I wouldn't think so. I think that I would hope that they would have ironed that out.
yeah, I think so too. It's fascinating to see, you know, what changes they would have made to improve this thing. Anderson.
Yeah, I can easily see it getting to top 16 as well. I think it was very unlucky not to last time around, and I think they'll probably have beefed it up a lot more and hopefully made it a lot more reliable.
Yeah.
And I just can't wait to see it. It's such a beautiful machine. It
It's a
really
stealth
is.
bomber, man, with a disc on the front. What's not to like?
And it's not just a disc. I mean, it's a disc. You know what I mean? I mean, this is a big mother chuffing disc. And,
It is.
Yeah.
And it's just it's kinky.
It is. It's exciting to see how they're going to get on. It really is. But we'll have to wait and see how Valkyrie deals with the pressure of being, you know, again, much like last time, a more favoured machine, maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
Moving on to our second and final Chinese entry of the season, it is WanHoo.
Who?
Well, WanHoo is the name of it. It had a big in the early renders. I don't know if you two saw. It had a big like scorpion stingray-esque tail at the back.
I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
I don't know if that's been removed or what, but so certainly from some of the images that I've seen that they, in the test box, they didn't have that tail, but they have a big vertical drum, which is you know, looks like it's very much inspired by like Pulsar's drum and Magnetar's drum from Robot Wars. It looks cool. It's very low to the ground.
Yeah, very very sleek and compact.
Mm.
And it's got evil eyes, so that's always a bonus.
Yeah. It's a fun machine. It looks like a fun machine.
Yeah. It's very. It looks very low. You know, it's got a very thin build, and it's another one of those robots that it's not very big, but it's one of those robots that it must be armored all to hell.
Yeah, it's gonna have a lot of, you know, weight's gotta go somewhere.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean,
and I'd like to see what kind of hits that disc puts out. Go on.
Yeah. We're seeing a lot of robots like that, aren't we? Small, compact robots that put a lot of their weight into their armor.
Armor
Yes.
or is either armor or weapon? Like, you know, it's
Armor or weapon.
Yeah.
I think this one's going to be a bit of both. I think we're going to see a lot of strength in the armor, a lot of durability, but I think we're also going to see that thing, well, without, you know, due to lack of a better phrase, twat a lot of things well. Yeeting them to Narnia, I believe, is one of your favourite sayings, isn't it?
Yeah. Sending it back to Mr. Tumnus in the through the wardrobe. Absolutely. Yeah, I don't think it's going to go as well as Railgun MAX, the other Chinese entry, but it's going to be interesting to see which one of those two comes out on top. I think I'd like to see the pair of them fight.
I think that's going to happen. I think that's bound to happen, honestly.
But I'm intrigued to see how they get on, the pair of them. We'll move on from WanHoo to a team that kind of surprised us. You know, had a bit of a late season surge last time around. It is Warhawk. And this thing, it looks like it's taken, you know, a lot of lessons on board from last time around. You know, they've covered the motor up, they've reprofiled the front, they've reprofiled the entire body to cover it with armor, and the phone again.
I've never had this many calls within an hour.
This is spectacular. Like, I mean, we've you know, truth be told, we've actually recorded this over 2 days. We have recorded this over 2 days, and this, you know, the second day. Steve has been called.
Happened in this?
Steve has just cannot has got a lot of friends this evening. Apparently, we'll move on.
Apparently, first we tried to record something the other day, and it was the lawnmower, and I think I just need to live on a farm far away from everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was cows.
Yeah,
that'll be the way.
Cows or sheep or something. I don't know. Warhawk. Back to Warhawk briefly.
Yes.
It looks so sleek now.
It just looks so much better. Yeah, I mean, like obviously we commented. I think Endgame will do better than it did last season. I think this is, again, it's going to be tough to beat Warhawk. The only issue, again, much like Monsoon and Skorpios and teams like that Rotator, for example, as well, they're going to have a tougher run this time. Yeah. Because obviously they've got it to the top 16, you know, albeit fairly fortunately, through the rumble that they had, that they got in. They performed well against Bronco. I think Warhawk's going to have a bigger target on its back than a lot of teams think.
Mm-hmm.
But they've done such a good job with this thing. It looks real nice. And again, the decals across the front, with all the tools and such.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Great effort from is it Rob Farrow?
Yes, Rob Farrow.
Yeah.
Western Allied Robotics, and it's one of those robots that I'm sorry. But it's one of those robots that its stock increased as the season went on last time.
Yeah.
And I do believe that we're gonna see more from it this time. I would be very disappointed if it downgraded somehow.
Yeah.
I do expect it to do better. But just because it's a better looking robot doesn't mean that it's gonna come back kicking.
This is true.
It's I mean that can be seen from a lot of designs. It's I don't mean to be pessimistic. But it's one of those robots that I do hope it does well. We saw a lot from it last time. It was fortunate to get into the top 16, but I mean, Rob's had a lot of robots go deep into tournaments before. I mean, Death by Monkey's a good example, and that was just a 4-wheel drive Pokebot, a lightweight. So I mean,
Great fun,
this is one of those robots. Oh, very fun robot. But I do expect this to be. Yeah, I mean, I expect some good fights out of this. I don't know. I don't know what we can expect to see. Like, I don't know if we're going to expect what we got last time. Like who knows? There's so much unknown because it has changed, and I mean, we'll see.
Yeah, Anderson.
I can see it being on top 16 again. They made it last time, and they seem to have done some really good improvements on it this time around, for the better. I think that it looks so much better than it did last time around.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it could be with a chance of definitely getting in that top 16 bracket again.
You got to assume that it was built in 3 weeks last time, so I'm sure they've had plenty more time to work on it this time.
Exactly. I mean, it built in 3 weeks, and they did as well as he did then. I mean, just imagine what this thing can do now.
Yeah, and I think as well as
maybe I'll change my mind a little bit.
With Warhawk as well. Like last time, I don't know how much experience Rob Farrow had with a spinner in general.
Right.
He'll know how it handles now a lot better than what he did. It just looks more sleek. Just gotta hope that he's the issues that they did have were dialed out, much improved. We should see it doing fairly well, I imagine. Yeah. A few more to go. We have last time's losing semi-finalist, and I think probably one of the fan favourites from last time around because it's just such a nice bunch of guys. It's the Whiplash team with Fast Electric Robotics. The Vasquez family back with a paint job inspired, I suppose, by Hypershock, you could say, the luminous yellow.
I guess,
I'm going to say it now. I think it looks better in luminous yellow.
Oh, really?
Really? I like the red, man.
I like the red.
Maybe I like red. I don't know. I like red. Red is a color school.
Red's my favorite color. Yeah. I mean, I'm a Blackhawks fan. It has to be. But
I don't want to talk about hockey right now. Let's just leave that. God.
But I don't know. I do like a good cheeky luminous greeny yellow, and I think that does look pretty saucy.
Yeah, it looks great. I mean, I think it's a sponsor thing. I'll be honest with you. I'm not entirely sure the ins and outs of it, but I like the luminous yellow.
These idiots look good, mate.
It does look good. Don't get us wrong. It's a fantastic looking machine. And I think another thing that's going to benefit them is the fact that they've bought more than one frame.
Heck yeah.
It's almost as people are starting to catch on to the robots get damaged at these sorts of things.
Yeah.
Once again, they're going to have a big target on their back. They're a top 4 finisher from last time.
Very much so.
Yeah.
But with that said, they fought some tough opponents themselves. I mean, let's face it. I mean, they had Hypothermia. Okay, maybe not so much. Warhead, maybe not so much. They also obviously fought Tombstone, which was a big scalp they had to fight.
And they nearly won.
And they nearly did. They got a hit on that wheel. They were so close. But they have beaten. They've beaten last rights at Robo Games before, so there's no reason why that Whiplash couldn't beat Tombstone with a bit more good fortune.
They took out Bronco really, really impressively.
They dominated Bronco. It was super impressive to watch. I mean, obviously they beat Yeti as well. Fantastically driven against Yeti. Obviously succumbing eventually to the eventual champion Bite Force. No disgrace there.
Yeah, no disgrace whatsoever.
What do we think?
I think it got a good cheeky win against the very underappreciated Mecha Rampage.
Yeah.
I think that robot had a lot more going for it than what got shown on television. It's just a shame that it didn't get a really good chance to shine.
Yeah. Do we think it's going to be a case of, can they maintain the top 4 finish? I think that's going to be a big ask, a very big ask.
With the field this year, definitely. I mean, I've talked about sophomore slump, or as you call it, pulling a Leicester City.
You mean Leicester?
Leicester, whatever.
Pulling
Get the hell out of here, man! I'm
pulling
so bad.
Pulling a Leicester City. Quote Steve Calabrese, 2019.
You live in Worcester, don't you? You live in Worcestershire.
Worcestershire.
Anyway, Whiplash.
Anyway,
Whiplash.
It's definitely got a target on its back.
Yeah.
And I think that'll benefit them. I think maybe Matt will take that as a scar of honor. You know what I mean? And
I think they will thrive under the pressure.
Chance to really show that I'm one of the best here.
Yeah, I think they will thrive under the pressure. Don't get me wrong. I think they've got, they did last time. I mean, we saw the fight against Bronco where they just bullied it around the arena. It was spectacular to watch.
And this was coming off a very good RoboGames appearance, and then going to BattleBots and having a really good showing. So we'll see. It's definitely got a shot.
I think with the amount of spares that they have this time as well, that's going to really help. I think the fact that they're better prepared. They're better prepared, yeah. I think that's going to really help. Whether they can get the top 4 again, it's a big ask, because obviously, as we said, the field is so big. But they're going to be dangerous, aren't they? They're going to be, right up there, ones to watch. For me, at least, I think they're going to be easily in the top 16. But from there, it's a who's who of who you're fighting, really, isn't it?
Yeah, man.
Definitely.
Another team who did make the top 16 last time, but kind of fell victim of, reliability issues throughout the competition. It has to be said, they were, kind of caught out by by Yeti early on, weren't they? It was Witch Doctor.
Yeah, they felt they just seemed to fall victim to their own voodoo, for lack of a better word. That's the only way you can put it.
They had an issue where I think they had to go to the original drive motors from Witch Doctor 1.
Yes.
Which is why they weren't as potent.
Interesting problem.
Yeah, they burnt the drive motors out, and that was job done. They had to re-engineer the whole machine to go back to the original drive motors, which is ludicrous, but they managed to do it. As ever, Witch Doctor, beautiful to look at, really nice aesthetic. The green and purple, the skeleton ribcage. I love this thing, how it looks.
Yeah, I like how they went back to a very Witch Doctor, like the first version we saw, that kind of disc.
Yes.
I guess something similar to what it had back in
season 1.
Season 1 and 2, technically.
Yeah.
Because this is more. I guess this is more of a season 2 kind of deal, because it's dual side. I feel like the last disc was kind of blah. Yeah. I'm glad they went back to this skull looking one. It's just more of a looker, in my opinion.
I would agree.
I also think it has better chance of hitting things.
Yeah, having that single tooth really matters.
Yeah, and I think as well as that, like, it's got more bite, and it's not got that the wedge issue they had last time, where they had to kind of like trim out the front wedge. It looks a lot better. It looks a bit more compact, a bit more protected. Mm-hmm. My one issue for Witch Doctor, don't get me wrong, it looks beautiful. I think they're going to do great and put on a good show. I don't think they're going to make the top 16.
No, nor do I.
And I say this with a really heavy heart, because I do like Witch Doctor and I like the team, but my issue with it is that I think it's not that they're becoming more of a show bot than a competitive bot, but like, they lack the firepower that other teams do, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you see it spin up in the test box. This thing does have some speed behind it with this weapon. I mean, there's no doubt with that.
Yeah.
I think our problem is that we're looking at past seasons with Witch Doctor, and it's underwhelmed. You know what I mean? From the breakout season it had when the reboot started, and it nearly took Tombstone out. Yeah. I think people still think about that in the back of their mind.
And I think the Rotator fight as well.
Yeah, and those people see that and think, man, this robot has that potential. Where is it? You know what I mean?
Last time they made the top 16. I think you could say fairly fortunately, because they fought, they won against Blacksmith. Who else? They won against, Ultimo. Oh dear. I can't remember their other win, but for the life of me. But obviously they lost to Yeti. They went 3-1. To be fair to them, they did a decent enough job. I don't know. I don't think it's going to be in the top 16 this time around. I think there's just too much stronger opposition than it. I'd love to be proved wrong, and I'd love for them to, prove me wrong and them get in there. But I just don't see it. Not this time.
it's a robot that we'd like to see do well, as all of them do. We'd like to see them all win, but some have to fall by the wayside. And I don't want to pick robots that lose, man. I've seen people talk online like I want to pick my top 25 or 26 or
32.
You know what I mean?
32. Have a top 32.
Shoot.
Yeah.
It's just a shame that you gotta somebody's gotta lose, man.
Yeah, somebody's gotta lose.
I think they might get. Prove me wrong, Witch Doctor. I'd like to see you prove me wrong.
Yeah, come out and blow the field away like you nearly did in season 1. I'd love to see it.
Yeah,
I'd love to see it. And last, but certainly not least, the Alaskan Assassin is back. It is Yeti. They've got a few new configurations as well. They've got a narrower, drum setup with the forks. They've got the old fork setup. I believe they've still got the wedge as well, I think. There's a lot to look forward to with Yeti. Again, much like with Witch Doctor, I think their time has kind of passed, and people know how to handle it now. Is my opinion,
Yeah.
And I think people know how to deal with Yeti better than they know how to deal with their opposition. Like, they've got one tactic, which is all-out aggression. What else has Yeti got?
Greg Gibson drives this thing like a madman.
He does.
A man possessed. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no. I mean, clearly he does not care about this robot coming out in one piece.
Nope.
It's win or don't win. It's win or die.
Yep.
So it's a robot that I do think it was. We can go back to its initial appearance back in season 1 of the reboot, where it was just completely like I didn't expect this thing to do as well as it did, and I'm surprised it went as far as it did.
I don't think anyone did.
No, it's one of those. It was very non-conventional because you got the I guess panic attack like forks and then a drum in the middle. It's not something you would think to do because you wouldn't think those would be compatible with each other, but they're so clearly are and possibly were. I don't know what kind of success it's going to have this time. I think the robots have advanced in just the few short years that we've seen this reboot. I would love to see it do well because I like Yeti as a design, I really do. But I don't know what we're going to see from it. And that's not me being mean or dickish, for lack of a better term. I just don't know. I think there's something to be said about this design, but I don't know where I stand with it currently.
I think it's still got something to offer. Don't get me wrong, it's a fun machine, and I think they had, let's face it, who did they lose to last season? They lost to Icewave. Icewave, who had a great season in general and were unlucky themselves not to go further, and they lost to Whiplash, who had a great season. Mm-hmm. So there's no disgrace there. Yeti's a very capable machine. I don't know if it's the top level it was, or it could be. I think it's, certainly up there in the second tier, right at the top of that maybe, but not necessarily the highest it could be.
Mm-hmm.
Anderson.
The thing is that there's more to robot combat than just aggression. We all know this.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I mean, the way I look at Yeti is, yes, it's a really good machine. Yes, it's dangerous. Yes, it's destructive. But it's got 4 ridiculously exposed wheels, a ridiculously high ground clearance, and a lot of unprotected body.
Yeah. Which
a lot of robots can exploit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'd love to see it do well because it is a good machine. But I'm not going to count it out completely because it's not to the point where I don't think it could. Because I do think it could possibly still make it to the top 16, but I also think there's a strong possibility it couldn't as well. So
I like how we're picking apart the machines that are like these. There's not a whole lot of quote unquote bad machines this time around. They're all they all have this quality that's. I mean they have a shot, but then you look at everybody else and you're like, man, I just gotta think of. If this one's going up against all these, I just don't know, man.
I think the issue with Yeti, much like some of the other teams that we mentioned, they're going to be fighting some tough opposition again, and I don't think they're the standout team that they once were. Whereas some of the teams that will come through will have an easier run of things. Say I don't know, for example, a Duck might have an easier run of things, or a Bombshell perhaps because of how it went last season for them. We'll see. It remains to be seen. How they get on, but with that said, that is your loss. That is all of our competitors for this.
Wipe the sweat from your brows, boys.
Yeah, that was a hell of a long experience to go through. Obviously, we've been we've kind of repeated a few points here and there, but we will be looking at a more we'll be doing a proper analysis and our own predictions for a top 16 in a week. But we have to, we want to, give us our thoughts on every single machine as we do every season, and I'm excited. I'm really looking forward to the 2019 season. I know you two are as well. You're both hyped, aren't you?
Yeah. I really wish I could have seen it live. What?
I want to see your reactions. Of course I'm excited. It's robots bashing into each other. There's carnage, destruction, good driving, Farouk's amazing voice, Kenny and Chris's bad commentary. I can't wait.
It's gotten better.
It has.
Really hasn't, but okay.
With that said, obviously, we appreciate.
Don't expect a Christmas card from them, Anderson.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, maybe if you're lucky, I don't know. But with that said, obviously we've gone on for a long time, but obviously you will have seen already that we've actually split this into two equally-ish space sections. So hopefully you'll have a bit more breathing space. We're not doing this because we're being arseholes about it and trying to get the views. It's because
and I can say something for the fact that if anybody is still listening at this point, thank you so very much, because you are like the lifeblood of this community.
Absolutely.
Honestly.
You are the real MVP.
Absolutely.
Honestly, I mean, the fact that you listen to us three knuckleheads for almost 4 hours is absolutely bonkers, and
Absolutely.
I love you for that.
Yeah, it's been kind of crazy that we've been able to keep this going for so long and not actually fall out with each other, which is also very very important. But guys,
it's early yet.
There's a long season to go, ladies and gentlemen. But that's
I'm so pumped.
Yeah, me too. With that said, I'm Anderson9132.
I'm Anderson9132, the Rules Guru.
And I am Steve, the American Killjoy, or like the American Killed Joy, because
who knows?
This has been quite a marathon.
Yeah, it really has. Anyway, we will see you next week for our top 16 video, and then not long after that, hopefully, season 4 of the reboot of BattleBots. We'll see you then.